Dragon Dogma-Moldy. When's it come out? Why aren't you answering? Hello? Check out this frog. I guess I could replay the first game for now. I seem to have made an oopsie. Well, at least the game's on Steam.
What can be said about Dragon's Dogma? It's a dark fantasy action RPG set in the land of Grancis, and then everything is thrown into chaos with the sudden arrival of the dragon thought to be long dead. And as a humble fisherman bound to the dragon, you set out to slay it, battling all sorts of mythological beasts along the way. Starting a new game, you're thrown into the prologue with no explanation of anything. You play as a guy named Saban, cutting your way through goblins and harpies on your way to face the dragon. Then a chimera shows up. Kill that, a gate opens, and you hear the dragon's voice. Then many years later, you're creating your character, you live peacefully in the village of Cassardis. Then the dragon shows up. You pick up a sword and try to fight it off, but surprise! It doesn't go very well. And the dragon steals your heart. Not in a romantic sense, he literally rips your heart out and eats it, leaving a glowing scar on your chest and tying your fates together. So you grab a rusty sword and go out to get your heart back, then you make friends with a guy who falls out of a hole in the sky and has a glowing hand. This is a pawn. They're not human, they look like it, but they have no will of their own. And you can travel with up to 3 of them to make your life easier. They can cover the weaknesses of your class for you. If they fall in battle, you have a very generous window to get them back up before they die, and they'll die instantly under certain conditions, like being petrified or stepping too deep in water. They don't drown, they dissolve into blood. They have some very deadly water in Grancis. You head toward the encampment where warriors gather, but along the way, you save a merchant from goblins. Saved! You get to the encampment and a magic rock says, "Hey, prove your strength." You step outside, kill a cyclops, then you create your main pawn who is always with you. Unless you do something like this, then you can just pull him back from a rift stone. Now that you've proven yourself to a talking rock, you are now known as the Arisen, Master of the Pawn Legion. Then you take a nap and a hydra appears, cut off one of its heads, and then you walk along a slow-moving cart through a long, winding canyon. But at least you can kick the ox to make it go faster. You finally come to the capital city, Gran Soren, and here is where the game really opens up. At the inn, you can change your class. Personally, I always go with Assassin because it's the only class that lets you equip a sword and a bow at the same time. And just like many open-world RPGs, you need to level up and get better equipment. And the best way to do that is doing quests. Some are very simple, like gathering flowers or rooting around in a river for a snakeskin purse you can trade in for a golden bastard. Others involve some investigation to find the thing you're looking for, but if you already know where that thing is, you can skip the searching and go straight there. Another way of gaining experience is, obviously, through battle. The bigger the monster, the more you get. And this is where my favorite mechanic comes into play. With large enemies, you can grab onto them and climb up to their weak spots to attack. But this system is not perfect in any sense of the word. Sometimes the physics go nuts and you end up circling around the drain of a Cyclops' bunghole. And if you're too close to a tree, I hope you like staring at leaves. You have very little control over the camera when latched onto a big monster. It moves if you tell it to, but it is ridiculously stiff and unresponsive. It doesn't do that when you're on the ground, only when you're trying to see what's going on in a situation like this. When you kill the monster, you can take parts of its body and use them to upgrade your equipment in a way similar to Monster Hunter. Just make sure you press the right button when you go to the shop. because I pressed the wrong one and accidentally stabbed the shopkeeper and got sent to the dungeon. That's an excuse you can't get away with in real life. Sorry, hit the wrong button.
Sorry, hit the wrong button.
Fair enough! When you're ready to progress the story, you go talk to this guy and take care of some things that have been troubling the Duke. There's deciphering an ancient text, which isn't a text at all. It's a tablet made to lead you to this guy. Investigating a cult, which takes you through the catacombs where they start raising the dead. Taking back a fort that was taken over by goblins. The leader's getting away! Quick, after him! And then there's searching an ancient ruin for a missing monk, only to find him dead, then gather the incredibly heavy stone tablets scattered all over the place. These quests take you all over the map. Some of these places are very far away, and there are no horses or any other sort of mounts in the game to help you cover more ground in a timely fashion. You go on foot the whole way there, and what's worse, you can really slow yourself down by carrying too much weight. Fortunately, you can use your pawns as pack mules in that case. You can sprint part of the way, but that's very limited by your stamina. Why couldn't stamina only be consumed during battle? It would make more sense to punish you for overusing skills rather than making travel more tedious than it needs to be. Of course, once you finish your objective, you'll need to head back to the city, and luckily, there is a fast travel system in this game, but it sucks. You don't just go to the map and select where you want to go like in most open world games. You need to use a fairy stone, and these things are expensive, especially in the early game, and to make it worse, they weigh you down. The fairy stones will teleport you to a port crystal. There's one outside of Casardis and one inside of Grand Soren. Then you can find a handful of other port crystals in certain places that you can take with you and place them wherever you want. If there's a place you'll go back to a lot, put one there. I put one in the healing spring in the middle of the forest because I can fill empty flasks there, and then you have some decent healing items. This system works, but it's so clunky and not explained to you well enough. Your standard fast travel for most games would have been just fine. If they wanted to make it a magic teleportation deal, why not just give you an amulet or a stone that can be used indefinitely? But hey, at least it's better than the fast travel system in Morrowind. Now let's get back on topic. Once you've done enough quests for Sir Maximilian here, you get to go see the Duke, but not before the jester puts this thing on your head. Go through the ceremony, then just like before, you start getting quests from this guy. The first one I did was to hunt a griffin, and when you weaken it, it runs away. It is possible to kill it before it gets away, but you need to be way over leveled for that. You then have to get to its nest in the Blue Moon Tower, which is ridiculously far away. Look at the map. This is where you fight the griffin. This is where you have to follow it to. This is why you need a horse or something. And guess what? The only way there goes through a canyon where strong wind blows you back. And you better have a port crystal to put there, because there is another mandatory quest that brings you back here. But it's worth the hassle of getting here. In my opinion, the battle with the Griffin at Blue Moon Tower is more epic than it has any right to be. The next quest isn't as exciting. You gather evidence for the trial of the richest man in the city. If you want to save him, then only turn in the good evidence. He does sell rare things at a decent price, but I hate rich people. Also, he ugly. So guilty. Now it's time to help this lady have a one-on-one duel with this guy. Then a magic ring is stolen from the Duke, so you go to the quarry to find this guy. Then you follow him back to the Blue Moon Tower. He's made to look like a boss, but he dies so fast. Dude Man McCool here says, hey, go to this place. Another guy says, hey, go back to the city. And then there's a giant turkey monster. The Duke sits there and watches you clean out the treasury. Then a guy says the cult is doing bad things. You kill them, and then the dragon shows up again and says, hey, come fight me if you're not scared. Then you talk to this guy again and go face the dragon, who then offers you a choice. sacrifice the person you love most, which happens to be the NPC who has the highest opinion of you, and for me it was this lady, and he will leave never to return, or stand and fight. I don't know what happens if you accept his offer, because I never did it or looked it up. The battle with the dragon is an incredible set piece, taking you through a chase sequence, running across crumbling bridges, firing a ballista to bring him down, and having to crawl along his back as he soars through the sky, before you finally expose his heart, bringing him to the ground for the final battle, which isn't very hard unless you grab him at the wrong time. Latch onto his chest to strike the heart, he'll pull you off and slam you into the ground, but if you position yourself just below his heart, you can still hit it while being too low to get grabbed. The dragon is slain, and you get your heart back along with the other people whose hearts were taken years ago, and they immediately age up to where they're supposed to be, turning him into a pile of dust, and the Duke gets all dramatic about it. Then you're over here boning by a campfire while the city falls into a hole, and this cutscene makes it look like the end, but there's still a little more to go before you've actually beaten the game. It sends you back home and you suddenly have a thing called God's Bane. Let's see what that does.
Open your eyes! No!
Why? Why is that a thing I can do?
Congratulations, you beat the game.
Cool, what's my prize?
You get to stab yourself.
Sweet. Now there's stronger enemies all over the place, and some more dragons running around. Killing them has a chance to dragon forge your equipment, which upgrades it further than the smith can. As for the main objective, you go to see the Duke, but he's gone senile, so you throw him out the window, the guards try to kill you, and you fall into the hole that opened up in the middle of the city. This pawn tells you to gather 20 wake stones, which are very rare and are used to revive yourself if you die. Fortunately, they're pretty easy to farm in all the rooms that line the Everfall, which is the name of the hole you're diving into. Once you have the stones you need, the pawn that told you to gather them uses them to open a portal where you meet God, who offers you a test that involves cutting down illusions of your friends and family, and the cult leader. Then you fight him, and for being a literal god, he's surprisingly fragile. Also, he's the guy for the prologue. After you beat him, he reveals the whole game was a test to see if you were worthy of taking his place. Kill him, and congratulations, you're God now. Which means you get to sit on the throne, and that lets you walk around Casardis invisible. And you can't leave the village. The door just sends you back here. The only thing you can do is harass the townsfolk. Farewell, noble fisherman. You belong to the sea now. Of course, you still have God's Bane. After a quick poke to the heart, your main pawn falls infinitely for a while, then wakes up inside your body. And that's the end of the game. I absolutely love this game. In fact, one day when I was in high school, I played it for 12 hours straight and didn't even realize it until after I got off. This game is great. There's a reason that it was ported from the Xbox 360 and PS3 to Steam, PS4, Xbox One, and even Nintendo Switch, but there are some problems that I think need to be addressed. I've already covered the terrible fast travel system, lack of a horse, and wonkiness of the monster climbing. The pawn's help can actually be more of a hindrance in some cases. Some Cyclopses have helmets, and you can get them to knock those helmets off. They can also be stunned with lightning. I'm over here trying to get it to knock this thing off its head, and one of my pawns keeps interrupting that by spamming lightning spells. Pawns can also get in the way when you're trying to grab onto bigger monsters, or they launch you onto them when you don't want to be on them. Also, the pawns talk a lot, and there's no option that I know of to shut them up. There are some bits of lore that are incredibly easy to miss. For instance, there's a cutscene that I never saw until I played the game for this video. It triggers when you go back to Casardis after reaching the encampment, but before you fight the Cyclops outside. Some of it comes from a side quest that only becomes available after eavesdropping on people in the city that you will most likely run right past and not give any thought to at all. And the NPCs feel like they aren't written very well. Clearly there's something going on with them, but the game does so little to tell you about them, unless that information is hidden behind a side quest that I don't know about. They come and go, you think they'll play a bigger role in the story, and then you never see them again. And when one of them is revealed as a traitor, you're just sitting there wondering why you should care. One last complaint, there is no dedicated dodge button. When you see something coming, you don't have a shield, all you can do is desperately try to sprint or jump out of the way, when a simple dodge roll would have been the answer, but that's fine, I guess I'll just get smashed into the ground then. Even with all those flaws, you should still play this game, and maybe you'll see why I love it so much, and start wondering why Capcom took 10 years to announce a sequel. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go back to what I was doing before. When'd it come out? Why aren't you answering?